how can you, maybe in terms of labor force, maybe the geographic position, how can you as an ambassador now and Canadian investors know about leveraging and using and making use of these strengths to access regional markets?
That's a great point, and I think Egypt does a very good job promoting itself and marketing itself as a regional hub. The other advantage too that I think Egyptian businesses have is a higher risk tolerance, right? They're more comfortable in more expeditionary markets. Canadian business people tend to shy away from risk. We're historically very dependent on the US market next door. 75% of our exports go to the US. And so we've tended not to be as enterprising as we could be. Now we finally get the message that we need to diversify our markets. We can't rely quite as much on the US market.
Yes.
And so you're seeing Canadian business people take a hard look at new markets. And I think the idea of partnering with Egyptian businesses in places like Africa and elsewhere in the Middle East, I think there's real potential there.
If I may ask you, have the investments actually started taking place as we're speaking now?
There's currently
that's just a potential.
I think it's more potential than
so
is
it's
actually
still
present.
Happen, hopefully.
We're working on that right now, and I think the momentum is in the right place.
Okay. In recent diplomatic exchanges, like President Sisi's call with the Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Foreign Minister Badr Abdelazi's talks with the Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand, what themes, if you can share with us, have emerged that might shape the upcoming bilateral priorities?
So not surprisingly, those types of discussions tend to be dominated by regional developments, right?
Yes.
So they spend a lot of time talking about Gaza, talking about the situation in Iran, this was right after the war between Iran.
So various topics have been discussed.
Correct, but mostly focused on regional peace and security. Yes. And so it's often easy to overlook our bilateral interests in those conversations. And so I think in both calls there was a strong will expressed that we also need to be working on, again, those bilateral exchanges, trade, cultural exchanges, people-to-people ties.
Economic. Canadian companies are now global leaders in AI, in fintech, and in everywhere, in clean tech. And are these plans linked to any expertise that you might be using in Egypt?
Very much so. In fact, currently we have several programs that are tied to the initiative, which is developing Egypt as an IT power. And so both University of Ottawa and Queen's University have partnerships with the Ministry of Communications here in Egypt to offer, I believe it's 200 learning opportunities for advanced students.
As Egypt aims to become more of a digital economy.
Correct.
More or less. So would Canada be able to help us in that area?
Exactly. So these are ongoing academic and commercial partnerships that we're keen to develop further.
Okay. If you were to describe the Canada-Egypt partnership in one word, what would that be and why?
It's hard to do it in just one word, but I think it's sophisticated.
It's a bit tricky, but...
It's sophisticated, I would say. It's mature, and it's built on trust. Those are three different words that I would use, but we're not new here, and we've been, again, strong partners of Egypt on regional peace and security for a long, long time, and we just now are keen to sort of build beyond that now.
And another tricky question, if you were to have just one day in Egypt to show a Canadian visitor the soul of the country Egypt, where would you take them? That's
a really hard question, I have to admit. And I have my own biases because as was mentioned in the very kind intro, I speak Arabic, I feel a real affinity.
And you're actually fluent in
I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but I have a real affinity for Arab culture and Egyptian culture. And so I think Café Fishawi would be where I would take somebody if I had to say, where's the soul of Egypt? And
where is basically your favorite place, maybe?
I mean, it's I'm a bit of a nostalgic when it comes to Egypt. I love the Thulathiyya, the trilogy of Naguib Mahfouz. In my mind, I live in the 1940s and the 1950s, and so old Egyptian, old Islamic Cairo, the area around Fishawi, Moiz Street. To me, that speaks to me.
But now there are new areas that are very similar in the taste, around the pyramids and everything. Have you been there before?
I'm starting to rediscover it. Of course, I'm rediscovering places that I used to know in 20 years ago,
exactly.
and taking advantage of all that's been developed in the 2 decades since.
Well, finally, Mr. Ambassador, ambassadors normally, often before they leave, like to always leave a legacy behind. What would you, in your opinion, would be the best thing you'd like to leave behind you?
Frankly, what I'd like to leave behind, and it's beyond my power, but if we can achieve peace and security in Gaza and in the region, because I think
during your posting.
Exactly. Well, in the next 2 years, no matter what, because Egypt unfortunately is surrounded by a lot of conflict, and it's doing a great job maintaining its own stability. But no one should have to face these kinds of challenges. And I could say the same about the situation in Sudan and the situation in Libya. I think Egypt deserves a quieter, more peaceful neighborhood. So I look forward to developing a partnership where we can hopefully make progress in achieving that.